Hey everybody, welcome to the DetailsPro 50 Days of Design, day number 1. So I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough of this file, and this is actually a file you can find featured presently as the first file in the DetailsPro community. If you're unfamiliar with DetailsPro, DetailsPro is a SwiftUI design app. So basically it's like you can design interfaces for your apps, and you build it all visually with SwiftUI, and you can export the code. So actually you can see here's a sneak peek of day 2. I've got this widget put together, and when I come over here, I can copy the exact SwiftUI code to get that into a real app. So this is all free. You just have to pay if you want to do more than 5 files on your device. But let's get into it. So this is day number 1. Okay, so day number 1, I wanted to show with each of these apps, each of these designs every day for the next 50 days, each of these designs, I want to show different things that maybe you didn't know that you could do with DetailsPro. So here I wanted to show this bar graph. And if we zoom in here, you can see it's pretty, let me go to full screen. Boom. You can see it's a pretty pretty nice, pretty precise spacing. There's a little caption, and there's, these things, there's a little call out at the top here. So let me just give you a quick walkthrough of how this was made. So you can see the rectangles of this graph are just a horizontal stack with a bunch of rounded rectangles. So for example, if I come down here and I grab, it's a little hard to see because they're all blue, but if I grab the last one, which is here, and I drag it a few back, you'll see it jump, right? So each one of these is a rounded rect, and actually all that's on each one of them is just the exact height. They all have the same width. So this would, I feel like really plug in nicely if you were doing like any sort of software where you know the values, you know the relative scales of your different rectangles. So really you just take how tall you want it to be and you multiply that together. So at the end of the day, it really does come down to something as simple as this. So yeah, this looks like a bug that I will fix. The radius should not be 13. It probably just needs to be 3 for the roundedness. Yeah, but I mean, you can see SwiftUI handling that, no big deal. The entire thing here is a vertical stack, you can see. So the whole thing is a vertical stack. We've got the bars, we've got this caption, and we've got this little call out, which is like, let's go to the next story. As if I was imagining this was some sort of news thing. So just a couple other tips that I think are good to know here. The way that this little 4.2 million kind of call out is working is I wanted it to be right next to this, right next to this bar, at the top of the bar to the left. So this is actually a pretty cool trick. Basically, all these other rounded rectangles along the way are just rounded rectangles by themselves. You can see them getting selected as I keep going. This one at the end, I gave it an overlay. And the funny thing about overlay is by default, overlay will just fit the size of the thing that is an overlay on. So like this rectangle being so narrow, the overlay that you should be able to put on it is also just very narrow. But what you can do is, you can see what I've done here, is I just gave that overlay a set width. So I was like, this is the exact size I want it to be. And that's what gave it that opportunity to be that big. And then I actually gave it an offset, which you can see here, which moves that. So it's kind of a funny thing because you're offsetting it after its frame is being calculated. So that's why you still see the selection over there, but it's actually drawing its contents over there. I think it was back at like -60. So you'll notice if you didn't before, when I move this big bar, if I move it back a bunch, that thing moves with it, which is pretty sweet. Let me put it back. Okay, so yeah, so this is a pretty quick thing. One other tip is, instead of making all of these bars have a blue color modifier on them, you can see that each one only declares its frame. I actually put the color modifier on the whole horizontal stack. And color and font are two of, I think there's other ones too for sure, but like text alignment is another one. Modifiers that will affect all the children inside like pretty directly. So color, if I make it red, orange, they'll instantly change, which is pretty cool. You can also, so these are all the iOS human interface guidelines colors, which are actually pretty amazing because check this out. When you go into dark mode, these are all like, these aren't, you know, hard-coded values. These are all smart values. So you'll notice like the color of background changed to black in dark mode. And if I go back to light mode, now it's white. So these are, if you can use these, you know, you'll have a great time. Even the oranges, if you watch the WWDC keynote, like I think like 2 years ago, maybe 2019, when they talked about dark mode for iOS, they talked about how colors like orange actually have a specific presentation in light and in dark. I can show you here in split mode in DetailsPro, which lets you design in both at once. I guess it's hard to, I mean, maybe it just looks like, oh, you know, the backgrounds are different, but this orange and that orange, iOS is actually rendering them slightly differently. So, and actually I think earlier I really liked this with red. So let me make that red again. Let's go out of split mode, horizontal stack, red, enter split mode, full screen. I feel like that looks just like super good. But yeah, so that is kind of the last trick. Of course, there's probably a lot of other tips or interesting things in here that you might learn if you're new to DetailsPro. And actually, let me just go to like system dark or light mode. So these files are free. You can just download the app DetailsPro, and then when you scroll down to community, you'll see each of these 50 days ones featured here. Also, when you pop into the Explore view, there's a whole bunch of other free designs you can download, and some widgets and just some other stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions about SwiftUI, pop over to my Twitter, which is DetailsPro app, or leave a question in the comments. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.